Hey there, welcome back to Venom's New Beginning. Last week, we had some big reveals. Serpentine? It's actually Prince Hans. And Skullface Guy? His name is Tyrannus, apparently. Fun! Carnage and Serpentine? They stole the Mundus Calcator. And now, they can... Shut up. Stinky people. So noisy. And now they can do whatever it is you do with the Mundus Calcator. This is the first chapter of this story that is so big, we're actually going to split it into 2 parts. So get ready for part 1 of chapter 10 of Venom's New Beginning. And, it's going to be a big old fight time. Big old battle fight. Waging on. If you have questions, comments, Mavis.
Wait a minute. This was written by Mikhail Gorbachev.
Was it?
Yeah, because...
Man of the Year 1989.
He was Man of the Year in 1989.
Wow.
Well,
I had no idea
Fun
that
fact.
eminent Soviet leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, was so skilled at writing fan
I guess
fiction.
I'll have to change. After Eddie had finished giving Elsa the ride of her life, they returned to her balcony at the ice castle. Once they arrived there, the 2 of them sat out on the balcony and waited for the sun to come up. It was midday, so it was going to take a while. After that, they managed to fall asleep together and rested for another 3 hours before the rest of the group started to wake up in the castle. Awaking with her head resting on Eddie's chest, Elsa gently... Oh my god, that's so convoluted there. Awaking with her head resting on Eddie's chest, Elsa gently looked up to see that he was still out. She smiled and whispered,
"Mission accomplished."
So Eddie was out. He was gone. And he left his chest here.
All right, who's going to take Elsa?
I think Eddie took her.
oh, right, it was Tracy's
Heyo.
drawing. Yeah.
Poor guy.
The Snow Queen considered waking him up, but he looked so peaceful.
I guess even Superman needs sleep too.
She mused. She gently got up.
If
She
I
gently
took a
got
nap, would you still call me Superman?
She's a superhero too. It just drives me nuts. She gently got up to freshen up and get ready for the day. Once Elsa was finished, she returned to the balcony only to see that Eddie was gone.
Where did he go?
She asked herself. It was then Eddie landed in front of her, causing the queen to jump. Seeing that he surprised her, Eddie smiled and apologized.
Sorry, beautiful.
Then, without warning, she approached him, causing them to lock lips again. Then, pulling away, she smiled and greeted.
Good morning, my hero.
As the 2 lovers embraced one another, Eddie couldn't help but think,
This is going to be a good day.
A few minutes later, they met up with Kristoff, Anna, Olaf, and Sven and departed from the castle. The journey off the main mountain was actually enjoyable. Kristoff was driving the sleigh with Anna cuddled up close to him, resting her head on his shoulder. Elsa sat on the far side of the bench, and Olaf was in the very back in his own little world. Meanwhile, Eddie was in his Venom form, web-slinging high above their heads. The group couldn't help but be in a state of wonder as they watched him soar above them with great ease. Because they'd never seen anyone with friggin' powers before.
He's a giant slobbery monster with huge teeth and a long tongue.
Just for the sake of entertaining them, Eddie even performed dangerous web-slinging tricks. He even caused Elsa to gasp and panic a couple of times, for she thought he was about to fall to his death. But much to our relief, he was
Poor
still in full
Shiva.
control of his showboating and always seemed to evade death at the last second. I picture him like...
He's just swinging from trees. He's
Yeah.
only like 15 feet above the ground.
I picture him
They're
like
not
all...
skyscrapers.
I picture him like almost going into mountains and being like, ah, ha, 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 woo! You know? Just,
Yeah, he's doing the George of the Jungle thing.
yeah.
Watch out for that tree. Oh,
Yeah.
he always seems to evade death at the last second.
About 2 hours later, the group was finally off of the mountain and it entered between a small ravine. What did they enter? Okay. If it was just Venom, he would have been off the mountain in only a fraction of that time.
You're slowing him down, is what you're saying.
But he didn't mind sticking with the humans below him. He would wait all day if he had to. He would do anything for Elsa. The sleigh was speeding along until they came across a large boulder that had obstructed the road. Kristoff threw his hands up in frustration and said,
Great. Just my luck.
if it was any other time, he'd have to redirect the sleigh and find another way around. But it wasn't any other time, for they had a superhuman with them.
I had two.
Yeah. Couple of them.
Unfortunately, it wasn't another time.
It was then.
I'm on it.
Brock shouted from above as he descended down to the boulder. Without any effort, he picked up the boulder and lifted it over his head with both hands. He then made his own face appear as he looked over to Elsa and winked at her, causing her to smile and shake her head playfully. Turning his attention back to the boulder, Eddie threw it with all of his might into the air, and then it was gone.
It did the anime star twinkle in the sky.
It hit the moon. They didn't have enough money to keep animating that cell. Although they never saw the boulder again.
Boulder is going on its own little adventure.
It's
That's
it's
so
like
forlorn. It's so sad.
I tried to read that like the last line of Stand By Me, you know? We never saw each other after that summer. Although they never saw the boulder again, the group could hear it make impact somewhere in the unseen distance. The unseen distance? He threw it that
And Frederick, who lived in a small cottage, he sure saw the boulder again.
Boom! Eddie then looked over his shoulder to the others and said,
Problem solved. Boom.
Zero.
This Spider-Man could have gotten a kaboom out of it. I'm just saying. As they watched the symbiote
that's
cover his
Spider-Man.
face again,
Oh, how I hate that Spider-Man.
as they watched the symbiote cover his face again, he quickly shot out some more web and went back to slinging in the air.
Is that a poop joke?
Shoot out some web real quick.
I thought it was an ejaculation joke, but it's just me.
Well, of course I did too, but they're children.
You got me. Okay.
Wait, you guys, your poop isn't web-like? I gotta make an appointment.
Kristoff looked to Anna and playfully joked,
Sure wish I had his strength. I'd sell some major ice that way. By chucking it into the unseen distance.
It got weird, Kristoff. Got real weird.
The unseen distance.
I assume he's talking about meth.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Do you think like Elsa's getting a little upset if they're all like, "Oh wow, we're in the presence of a superhero with powers"?
Elsa could have taken care of that boulder.
What's she gonna do? Make the boulder cold? Ooh.
Or, you know, freeze it to a point where it cracked, or create an ice slide over it, or, you know, any of a dozen other things. But no, instead, let the friggin'
Look, Michael, just let it go.
Let it go.
It's
You've got to let
if
it
I
go.
knew any of the other goddamn lyrics of that song, I would try to make a comedic comeback. But
Yeah.
never bothered me anyway. That's all I know.
Yeah, it's all workshopping. He then continued driving the sleigh through the ravine following Venom. For the next 5 minutes, the sleigh made its way without any events or setbacks of any kind. It's kind of like the Oregon Trail now. We get updated on every... Elsa's restless night was starting to catch up with her as her eyelids started to get heavy and close. As she began to drift off to sleep, she had no idea that...
closed.
As she began to drift off to sleep, she had no idea that Eddie was now on top of the ravine watching her.
Now, are they starting to get heavy and close, or are they starting to get heavy and close? Like they're drawing near to her face. Well, your eyelids are getting pretty close. She's just as beautiful when she sleeps as she is awake.
Eddie Brock said, as he turned fully human and descended down to the sleigh with a leap of faith. When he closed in on the bottom, he gracefully landed on his feet with the symbiote powers and walked over to the sleigh. He began walking along with the sleigh on Elsa's side to watch over and protect his sleeping queen. Looking over to Eddie and smiling at him, Anna said,
You truly love her, don't you?
Eddie gave off a small smile and answered,
Gave off
a small smile?
Like an Animal Crossing
Floated
character.
off.
Wait, is he still Venom here?
I mean, he gracefully landed on his feet with the symbiote powers.
So his ankles were Venom.
Yeah. He's just wearing Venom booties.
It's like instead of cankles, he has venkles.
Okay. More than anything in the world.
Explaining his cheesiness, Eddie then said,
I feel like I should explain my cheesiness. When I first became Venom, it was like the old me had died, and with it, my sense of love and mercy, most of it anyway. And I was right to think that. I was gone. But when I met Elsa, all of that changed. She brought me back.
As Eddie poured out his heart to Anna, he had no idea that Elsa had woke up in time to hear him. Deciding not to ruin the moment, the queen kept her eyes closed and listened to her new boyfriend. Both Eddie and Elsa agreed to make their relationship official the previous night.
Okay.
By the way, Dad.
Elsa's heart began to melt as she listened to Eddie Brock put his feelings for her out here. Despite the fact that their relationship was speeding along very fast, she still felt that they were making the right choice. The Snow Queen had never felt this way for anyone before in her life, and of course Eddie felt the same way. They may have been from two completely different worlds and social classes, but they both knew their differences were not a problem. Eddie may not notice it yet, but as far as she was concerned, he truly was a superhero, and more importantly, her hero.
A super duper hero.
A few minutes later, they were finally through the unusually long ravine when Eddie suddenly stopped.
Size?
I love these things as like actual names.
Oh, yeah.
When Eddie suddenly stopped and put his fist up, signaling for Kristoff to halt the sleigh. He then turned to the others with his finger to his nose, indicating for them to be quiet. Is that what that means?
No,
Nobody
he's saying,
sniff.
we gotta go. So if you need to sneeze, do it now.
At this point, Elsa was...
I want cocaine. Hey, snow lady, you make some snow, right? That's what I hear.
Be quiet.
At this point, Elsa was already up and watched Eddie along with the others. Kristoff managed to get Brock's attention and mouthed
What?
to him.
What?
Eddie looked over to them and whispered,
Something is coming.
"It's the rapture. Are you ready?"
Do you know Jesus Christ?
As he said that, a huge sense of dread drifted over the group as they looked all around them for the coming danger.
But they wouldn't notice that.
That sentence could have used about 3 more asses in it. The winter landscape, which only moments before seemed bright and wonderful, now felt like a frozen wasteland. The wind howled and the temperature began dropping at an unnatural rate. Preparing for the oncoming battle, Eddie let the symbiote cover him and became Venom. Then in his inhuman voice, he looked over to Kristoff and said,
When I say to leave, and don't you dare look back. Understand?
I say 2.
Oh, I see it.
1.
When I say to leave, and don't you dare look back. Understand?
that ellipses really does make it seem like he's like, when I say to, what's that word? You know, it means like when you're not there anymore. Yeah.
Man.
When I say 2, you say much. 2.
Please. Choosing to appease Venom, Kristoff nodded and drew his sword out for protection against whatever was coming. That's not appeasing Venom. That's doing the opposite of what he said.
Right. They're supposed to be preparing to leave.
Annalene, maybe Kristoff thinks he means like, obviously kill a few guys first, but then at some point I'm going to tell you to leave.
Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe that was implied in the ellipses. Anna leaned closer to him while Elsa got close to her. Meanwhile, Olaf hid under a blanket and whispered to himself,
Tracy, you do the best Olaf voice. Can you say, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, Eddie will beat him up?
Okay, but nobody thinks I do a good Olaf, including
I think it's
The best
wonderful,
of all of
honey.
us.
be okay. No, my gosh. Okay. It's gonna,
All right.
it's gonna be okay.
Never mind.
It's gonna be okay.
This was a bad idea
Damn it.
from the start.
Listen, I need quiet to work my genius. It's gonna be okay. I'm a dumbass snowman. I'm the worst thing, but not quite horrible enough. Not like Minions horrible, but just enough to piss you off a little bit. And by the way, here I am in my own adventure when you're trying to watch the long-awaited Incredibles 2!
I was kind of picturing his voice a little more Charles Nelson Riley. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Eddie will beat him up.
Sure.
That was the
He
cowardly
barely
lion.
avoids
That was
Yes,
a little bit.
okay, yes.
cowardly
stupid
lion,
silly voice. Like there's heart in it.
Beat him up. Meanwhile, Sven had his ears back, scanning his surroundings.
Is he a cat? Oh no, he's a
Reindeer.
reindeer. Right. It's
Oh
not.
yeah,
funny.
that's right. I was keep forgetting that. Yeah.
It's not funny.
A low roar came from Venom as he saw a dark figure emerge from the distance. Who or whatever it was slowly walked toward them as if he had all of the time in the world. When the figure closed in on them, it looked as if his eyes shone green. What happened next frightened the two sisters, Kristoff, Sven, and Olaf, to the core. I love when these authors list every single person one by one.
Just what we needed. Another self-insert.
Okay.
The figure leapt into the air, and then with terrifying speed, he landed only a few feet in front of them.
Again, everybody
figures
has the ability to accelerate their landing. They leap up and then they land even faster.
The figure's
Like Super
appearance...
Mario Brothers, you can control in midair.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
to be
Oh yeah, maybe it's a ground pound.
to be fair, if somebody like ground pounded in front of me, it would probably freak me out
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
The figure's appearance caused everyone to shrink in fear at the sight of its hideous appearance, except Venom, who only filled with rage. This is its whole thought. Who only filled with rage?
Who only feels with rage?
Who's the man with the beak?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I was gonna do a reference to a David Byrne and Saint Vincent's song, but it struck me as maybe too obscure.
Oh, that's going to be.
Well, you did half
will
the
not
joke.
get
Are you sure you don't want to finish your joke, Tristan? And
No.
nobody will
No, it didn't fit the cadence anyway.
I was going to make a reference to a small skirmish when the Han Dynasty had a minor uprising, but
I know that one.
I was going to reference a poem I wrote in high school in my journal and no one's ever read.
but nobody here is cool enough to get it. So, like,
Who are you?
he roared at the creature. The creature flickered its fork-shaped tongue at him and hissed.
That's the
There
clue.
it is.
You want me to do Serpentine?
Yeah, come on, give us a
You may
hissing-
call me Serpentine.
But where are all the S's? Damn it!
Yeah.
You may call me Serpentine.
There we go.
Well, Serpentine, you have exactly 5 seconds to get out of the way, or we will make you move
Venom said.
by dropping a sick beat.
Hearing Venom describe himself as "we" sent a shiver down everyone's spine. Why wouldn't they just assume he was referring to all of them? I mean, that seems weird.
Yeah, he hasn't been talking.
Maybe that's why it sends a shiver down their spine.
When he described himself that way, they knew the symbiote was speaking as well. An evil smile broke out on Serpentine's face. Revealing his viper fangs, he then said,
Ooh.
I wonder whom I shall kill first. Mountain Man, perhaps? The princess? Or maybe the Snow Queen?
He said as he shifted his diamond-shaped pupils to each person.
And we've established that because of his yellow eyes and diamond-shaped pupils, he literally has Crow T Robot's eyeballs. That's canon.
Yeah.
You gotta draw that.
My vote is on the other symbiote. Didn't mean to rhyme there, but I did.
Dangerous. Jesus. Symbiote.
Yeah.
A voice said, it was none other than Carnage, as he seemingly came out of nowhere and landed next to Serpentine and let out an evil laugh. He then looked over to the Snow Queen and said,
I'm afraid.
Evil.
I'm afraid the fairy tale is over, Your Majesty. Here's the deal.
Your Majesty.
You are Majesty.
I'm afraid the fairy tale is
Your
over.
Majesty.
You are Majesty. Here's the deal. After we kill your boyfriend here, you can either come peacefully or continue to resist, in which I'll kill the rest of your little family.
I forgot to say case there. I hope you don't mind.
Starting with your little sister.
Venom Van stood in front of Elsa and roared,
You'll have to get through me first.
Carnage and Serpentine descended on him like a pack of rabid wolves and began stomping him to death.
Carnage formed a whip with his hand and wrapped it around Venom.
We're not supposed to kill you, but the master never said anything about just hurting.